Hello, and welcome to our channel. My name is Joshua, and I am the founder of the Conquest channel here on YouTube. Our very first video is very special to me, and I'm very excited to get the chance to release this. This channel will be diving headfirst into the unknown, popular conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, and the mysterious happenings that will make you scratch your head and wonder. Now, with that said, on to the video. Thank you for watching. If you are from Michigan, you most likely know one of our biggest and popular legends of all. If you are not a fellow Michigander, or just don't know, here is a little background to catch everyone up to speed. The legend of Dogman. In Michigan folklore, the Michigan Dogman was allegedly witnessed in 1887 in Wexford County, Michigan. The creature is described as a 7-foot-tall, blue-eyed or amber-eyed bipedal canine with a torso of a man and a fearsome howl that sounds like a human scream. There have been far more sightings than Bigfoot, who is practically the poster creature for cryptozoology. Cryptozoology is a pseudoscience and subculture that aims to prove the existence of entities from the folklore record, such as Bigfoot or the Chupacabra. The first recorded instance of humans encountering the Dogman was back in 1887, where a couple of lumberjacks got more than what they bargained for among the trees of Wexford County. Not that they didn't survive to tell the tale. Despite its fearsome reputation, accounts of Dogman attacks have yet to be substantiated in the mainstream media. Ottawa and Chippewa tribes in the 1980s believed Dogmen were members of a shape-shifting skinwalker tribe who became stuck somewhere between their human and animal forms. This beast dates back to ancient Egypt, and that Dogman encounters have been reported on every continent except Antarctica. There have been numerous reports all over the world of this creature. So many that a radio DJ from Traverse City, Michigan made the Legend of Dogman song. But little did he realize that his project, that was meant to be a joke, would produce multiple reports here in our great state. I got the privilege to sit down with someone that had a bone-chilling encounter. Here is her story.
I grew up in Petoskey, Michigan, in the country. I'm 29 years old. I am an outdoorsy person. I'm a mother of 2 girls. I don't know what else. Gone hunting and fishing a lot in my lifetime. Spent a lot of time out in the wilderness, camping, and 4-wheeling and 2-tracking.
You've done a lot of stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's early in the morning. But we're sitting next to the fire, and it's a fireside story, but it's not just any story. It's a true story. So, let's start off with where you were at.
I was in Boyne Falls, Michigan. It's about 20 minutes south of Petoskey. At an ex-boyfriend's house. Yeah.
It's okay. Just relax. Just talk to me. We're having a cool conversation. All right. So you were in Boyne Falls, and then about what time do you think it was?
Around 10:30, 10:45 at night, p.m.
There you go. Okay. So just take your time and to the best of your knowledge, just describe your encounter.
So I had stepped out for a cigarette late that night, around 10:30, 10:45 p.m. And I was standing outside for, I don't know, a good minute or two. And then all of a sudden I noticed this dog-looking thing walking down the sidewalk down towards where I was standing at a house, or outside of a house. And it got closer and closer, and I had noticed as it got closer that it looked bigger than a normal sized dog. And then it got to the back end of the vehicle that was parked in the driveway, standing on all fours, and it was taller than the vehicle or the car. It was a Ford Taurus that was parked there in the driveway. And so it really kind of made me nervous. I stepped back slowly and then went into the house and got a hold of, or talked to my boyfriend at the time. I pretty much freaked out. I was like, I don't know what this is, please come outside. And he opened the door without any warning, really. I don't know why he didn't have any fright after I tried to warn him. And he opened the door and he stepped out, and then he noticed it, and it was at that time already like at the end of the pathway up to the door that we were standing at inside of the house. And so we just stood there, and he freaked out like himself, and he was like, oh my gosh, what is that thing? And I'm like, I really don't know, it's not normal for a dog. He's like, no, that thing is definitely not normal, it's like a werewolf or a Dogman. And I didn't really believe anything until that very moment of any type of a Dogman or any shapeshifter. And we were standing there, and then he picked up a rock, and this thing just kept walking perfectly down the sidewalk, and then it veered off into the street, and the street light was there. And he picked up a rock and he threw it at it, and the thing just stopped, and it like turned its head and it stared at us for a good 10, 12 seconds, and then turned its head back forward, and then it turned, like, kept walking, and then it turned up the street that was like the next street up the road. And it was just the creepiest thing ever. Very creepy. Nothing normal to me. I don't know. And it was all white, and it had a bigger head, very tall. I did not see it on only 2 legs. I only seen it on all 4 legs, and it was taller than a vehicle.
So, compared to a Ford Taurus, it was taller than the roof. So would you say it was maybe about shoulder height on you to the top of its back?
Probably a little taller.
Okay.
Just because shoulder height to me on that car would have only been up to the top of that window. So you could see it up over the top of that car.
So how tall would you say?
I'd say it was like 3 inches, it looked.
So the top of its back would have been probably about as tall as you are.
Yeah.
And how tall are you?
5'3".
So that's pretty tall.
Yeah.
And who's to say how tall it would have been if it would have went on on 2 legs, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Very, very unnormal.
So, did you notice any particular features other than it being tall? Like, what did the face look like?
The face looked like a dog face, a long nose shaped like a dog like snout. The ears were they were bigger and not really floppy, they were just more pointier and bigger. The head was pretty big though. And the tail was long, but it was white. It was, I don't know, like almost like wolf white, but way bigger than a wolf.
That's pretty cool. Did you notice at all what the legs or the feet looked like?
Like dog feet.
So like the rear legs kind of were like backwards to ours. So like a dog's like with what's it called? Like the reverse knee.
Yep.
It's like a reverse knee compared to us anyways.
Yeah.
Did you notice what the feet look like?
Like paws, big paws.
Okay. Do they have like any claws or anything?
Yes.
How big do you think the claws were?
Black long claws. Probably like an inch long, I'd say. Half an inch to an inch.
Crazy, crazy.
What time of year was it?
That's a good question.
Fall time.
The fall?
Yeah, because it would have been around this time of year.
When it was walking down the street, could you hear it? Like its feet, the paws, and the claws, could you hear it on the pavement?
Like the clacking a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah. A little bit, yeah. Like a dog would.
I wish that you would go on camera for the audience and show as if Josh was you and you were the dog walking away, but do your turn back and show how that, because that's quite, the way that you do that, the way that you describe that animal or creature or whatever it was turned back and looked at you was quite interesting,
Yeah.
I feel. You should
And that's really like
sort of
where
just
I
turn
got that really
sideways.
bad vibe of like,
Yeah.
alright, we're not with this anymore.
See, right.
And we're going
That's
in.
why I feel like you should show him what you mean.
It was like a dead stare.
But
like,
turn sideways like you're looking at him. You're the animal and he's you.
The dog was walking, or whatever it was.
Away.
And it was walking away down the street past where we were standing. And when he threw the rock at the dog, or whatever this creature was, it like immediately stopped and it turned and it like just gave us this dead stare. And it sat there for like 10 to 12 seconds. And then it just like turned back. And then it went on its way and then it turned up the street. And that's when we were just like, okay,
That was too
we're out. Yeah.
Now, there has been stories in the Boyne Falls area about this creature, and I believe it was called the Boyne Falls Beast.
The Boyne Falls Beast or the Boyne Falls, I think they actually did call it a Dogman or like a Sasquatch. Yeah.
Now,
And it was, I guess, a lot of people were saying that the story has it that it's been seen in the woods up behind the mud runs down in Boyne Falls.
I have a question. Being from the area over there, is that, do you suppose, because there's ski mountains over there,
Yes.
a lot of mountains,
There's a lot
lots of
of-
forest, lots of places for a creature to exist without being in your face all the time, hey?
Yeah.
And lots of waterways.
Lots of creeks, river that goes right through Boyne Falls.
Right.
now before this happened, have you ever heard of the Dogman or heard of any type of cryptid type deals? Like cryptid creatures? Sort of like the Dogman or Bigfoot?
Not really, like werewolf or, I don't know. Not really, other than just like werewolf or a Sasquatch.
What did you think about Sasquatch and like werewolves existing?
When I was a kid, I just thought it was all like mythical, made up stuff that, you know, people just talk about to scare other people. But other than that, I never really believed it until I seen what I seen, and it's crazy because it's like it was like yesterday.
They say these stories, though, a lot of times when people have an encounter, that it's kind of engraved in your memory, that it's the most startling, least believable thing that you ever thought you would see, and
Yeah.
then you saw it.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks that tell their stories, when they're telling their stories, they say they'll never forget it.
Right.
So it might, that's why it seems like yesterday.
And now that side of the state is a pretty big hot spot for dogmen sightings and cryptid sightings of that sort. And I know there's reports all over Michigan, from the UP all the way down into southern Michigan and beyond. There's reports in a bunch of different states, and we were talking earlier about there being reports all around the world, in the UK and Europe and just everywhere. I think there's probably a few stories in
Yeah,
It's like
Russia.
Australia and New Zealand that I was looking at. There's from Sasquatch to a creature that looks huge and stands on two legs but looks like a dog, to flying things that you thought went out with the dinosaurs. You just hear about these things all over the world.
So, with your encounter, have you heard of anybody else seeing what you saw?
Well, the very next night after that, my boyfriend at the time's mom's boyfriend had gone out to feed the dogs in the backyard. And about 2-3 minutes after he got back in the house from feeding the dogs, they started barking and going off. And it was around 10 o'clock at night. And he came into the house and yelled for my boyfriend at the time, and they both went back out there outside, and it was the same thing that we had seen the night before that. It was standing off in the opposite corner of the backyard, staring at the dogs, just sitting there. It was just weird, like, very weird. So I don't know if it was just like coming to, I don't know, taunt the dogs, or if it's just something that's lingering around that town. It's very weird though. But ever since that, I do not step outside at night alone.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But I'm used to being out in the woods. If you've ever watched my outdoor channel, which is the sister or brother or whatever channel that I do on YouTube, I'm always out in the woods at nighttime and different times, but it's just fun to get to be able to hear your story, and it's really awesome to get to hear your story for sure. How should I word this? How did you deal with seeing what you saw?
It's always stuck with me. I think it's helped knowing that it wasn't just me seeing things, that other people have seen it. And after we've seen it, we ended up talking to other people, and that's when we found out that there was other stories of people seeing the same thing. I don't know if it's something that's trying to follow me through my life, if it could be a shapeshifter, or if it is something else.
Well, and there are a lot of native lands here in Michigan, so it wouldn't be a surprise if it was a shapeshifter type or a skinwalker type creature.
Right.
Well,
Probably if it's something that you saw in the area, probably not following you around necessarily as such. It just so happened to be that it was in the area and you guys were right there. And I have to say, it could have possibly been attracted to the dogs that were in the backyard. Also, it showed up at 10:30 the one night and showed up at 10 o'clock the next night at dinner time, because that's when he used to go out
And feed the dogs.
and feed. That's what you said to me before.
And that's what we always, like me and my ex, that's what we were talking about too.
Could have been attracted either to the dog food or the dogs being out eating your dog food.
Right. Yeah.
well, it wouldn't be a surprise that one dog type creature is interested
Another.
in another either.
Would you know what the Were the dogs girls or boys in the back?
Both boys.
They were both boys, so it could
So
have even been
could have
territorial.
It could have very well been
Bo and
territorial,
Louie.
for sure.
But if they're back there and that's where they lived, and they also, like
And
Peter
for a
marked their
Doberman
spots.
Pinscher to be scared, because that's what Louie was a Doberman.
Oh,
And he was a full-size black Doberman.
he was big. Yeah.
Well, and the Doberman have the big pointy
Ears.
so it could very well have
thought one of its own.
right. So in hearing that, not to freak you out or anything, but there very well could be multiple around the area. You just saw
One of them.
the one.
Yeah.
Well, they have to. If they're procreating, they're gonna have to mate with something.
Right. Because
And
I
if-
always thought, if there's one, then there's got to be more.
What
Plus,
was
you
the
always
other
hear
dog?
these, stories of other people seeing them in other states, other countries.
What was the second dog? Do you know?
Bo. Bo was like a mix, so he'd be like a mutt, but it was like a lab and boxer.
See, even that type of dog shouldn't be afraid or intimidated easily.
Doberman Pinschers have been a dog used for all sorts, and especially intimidation with their stance and how their ears look.
I think they were definitely used in the military, weren't they? Like
Oh,
by
for sure.
other countries and such
For sure.
as well.
Well, I think that about wraps part 1 of the fireside stories here in our Dogman episode. And stay tuned for part 2. Thank you very much for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you for taking the time to tape it.
For sure. Anytime.
So the officer and I went out there to take a look at it. He just tried to chew in around the doors. And you could see a dog print, alongside the window there. And so it was, obviously a dog.
Summer morning in early June is when the legend began. At a nameless logging camp in Wexford County where the Manistee River ran, 11 lumberjacks near the Garland Swamp found an animal they thought was a dog. In a playful mood, they chased it around till it ran inside a hollow log. A logger named Johnson grabbed him a stick and poked around inside. Then the thing let out an unearthly scream and came out and stood upright. None of those men ever said very much about whatever happened then. They just packed up their belongings and left that night, were never heard from again. It was 10 years later in '97 when a farmer near Buckley was found. Slumped over his plow, his heart had stopped. There were dog tracks all around. 7 years past the turn of the century, they say a crazy old widow had a dream of dogs that circled her house at night. They walked like men and screamed. In 1917, a sheriff who was out walking found a driverless wagon and tracks in the dust like wolves had been stalking. Near the roadside, a 4-horse team lay dead with their eyes open wide. When the vet finished up his examination, he said it looked like they died of fright. In 37, a schooner captain said several crew members had reported a pack of wild dogs roaming Bowers Harbor. His story was never recorded. In 57, a man of the cloth found claw marks on an old church door. The newspaper said they'd been made by a dog. He'd have had to stood 7'4". In 67, a van load of hippies told a park ranger named Quinlan they'd been awakened in the night by a scratch at the window. There was a dogman looking in and grinning. In 77, there were screams in the night near the village of Bel Air. Could have been a bobcat, could have been the wind. Nobody looked up there. Then in the summer of 87, near Luther, it happened again. At a cabin in the woods, it looked like maybe someone had tried to break in. There were cuts around the doors that could only been made by very sharp teeth and claws. He didn't wear shoes because he didn't have feet. He walked on just 2 paws. So far this year, no stories have appeared. Have the dogmen gone away? Have they disappeared? Soon enough, I guess we'll know, because this is the time to fear. For another 10 years has come around. The 7th year is here. And somewhere in the Northwoods darkness, a creature walks upright. And the best advice you may ever get